Hi, I'm Karen.
And I'm Elise.
Welcome back to Poodle People,
where we talk about all things poodles.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So I found you, I think, on Instagram, and then I visited your website, and I was totally enchanted because this is really the kind of stuff that I'm interested in right now. So can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what your business is about?
Definitely. So, myself, I will maybe start with just some of my credentials and then what I offer. So, I am a certified canine fitness trainer as well as a certified professional canine fitness trainer. They're two different credentials. So, I'm multi certified in canine fitness, certified as a canine massage therapist, as well as a feline massage therapist. I'm a certified corrective exercise specialist for humans. Certified professional dog trainer, certified in kinesiology taping. Yeah, I think that's about it. But I've got a bunch of little certificates and stuff as well to kind of help me along the way. So yeah, I offer what I would say my biggest passion is the canine specific fitness and helping dogs just feel as comfortable as they can in their bodies and optimizing their movement quality. So I do a lot of gait analysis and postural analysis, either to help owners identifying red flags in their dogs, which it may end up being referred out to a different specialist, or I will make exercise programs to help improve their posture and movement and keep them as comfortable as I can. The canine massage is really helpful for that as well, for reducing muscular tension. And yeah, I also offer some fun workout with your dog programs and dog yoga programs that involve the person getting active with their dog as well.
Yeah, I love your 50 kilometer. Is that what it is? 50 kilometers?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some challenges. One is the
Yeah.
50 K9, which is walk or run 50 kilometers with your dog to get your medal and certificate. I also offer another one called Obstacle, which involves doing some different obstacles outside and finding fun stuff for the dogs to exercise on. So I have a list of exercises like front paws on, spin, that sort of thing. And the idea is to find rocks, logs, benches out on your walks, just to add in a little bit more training, fitness, fun with your dog.
I love that. So before we go any further, people may recognize that you have a little bit of an accent. So do you want to tell us a little bit about where you are from and just kind of set the stage for where you live and what kind of life you live with your dogs?
Yeah, so I am based in Alberta, Canada. And yeah, so I live in Canada and I offer services in person here as well as online all around the world.
And what dogs or dogs and cats do you have, or what animals in general do you have?
Yeah, so I have one dog and one cat. I would love to have more, but I'm in a condo. So yeah, I just recently foster failed a little senior Shih Tzu. And so I have him. His name is Uno, and he's about 10 years old. And yeah, I just wanted to foster, but I immediately fell in love with him. And then I also have a 2-year-old cat named Bones, and I do a lot of fitness training with him as well.
So is Bones on your website?
He is, yeah.
So is he the cat that's very straight?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
he's the primary cat featured on my stuff.
Okay. And tell me again, your dog is a Shih Tzu?
He's a Shih Tzu mix, we think. Yeah, he's been in my care for about 9 months now. Just started
Okay.
as a foster, and yeah, I ultimately ended up adopting him.
I did look at your website again to refresh my mind, and I don't remember a Shih Tzu other than the older one whose posture improved. Is that him?
It might be. I actually started my business with wanting. I had a Shih Tzu mix for about 15 years, and she was my sole dog. And I started my business with her as my muse. And unfortunately, she passed away on April 14th. And how it ended up working out is I thought on April 15th, I was like, well, before I get my plan was a border collie puppy. I wanted to foster senior dogs until then. And yeah, my first foster dog was also a Shih Tzu mix, and he was just very healing for me in losing my dog. So I ended up kind of going the opposite route and just sticking
Yeah.
with another senior Shih Tzu instead of a border collie puppy.
Yeah. It's so interesting when you have a senior dog because I found the adjustment. I know we're getting a little bit off track, but I think people will relate. With your dog, did she slow down?
Yeah, it was, I mean, she was very active, and I think that fitness has a lot to do with her looking quite young for her age, her whole
Right.
life. I mean, it really wasn't until her last year of life that she really started to slow down. And just because I was so active with her and she just moved so well, everyone always thought that she was a lot younger than she was. But yeah, yeah, just kind of the lifestyle of being with a senior dog. It can be a lot at times, but I guess there was part of me that wasn't ready to let that go.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about why um, canine conditioning is kind of having a moment and gaining in popularity. Could you speak a little bit to why it's important and what it helps dogs either achieve or avoid?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is we all want what is best for our pets, and we're only really just starting to realize that a lot of dogs are dealing with underlying musculoskeletal pain and osteoarthritis. And I think, you know, a lot of dogs, even maybe if they aren't suffering from an injury, do have some structural concerns that make them maybe a little uncomfortable, or maybe make it so they can't quite do the things that they want to do pain free. And I think that's the most important thing for us, is to make sure that our dog's quality of life is good and that they feel good in their bodies. And canine fitness is really popping off right now. And I think because it just really does help us to learn to identify things that might be going on with our dogs, and just setting their bodies up so they can feel comfortable doing the things that they love and reduce the risk of future injuries happening in the future for them.
Right. So this is kind of the idea, especially for humans, that the more you are strengthening your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons, your fascia, you are supporting your bones and reducing your potential injury or joint pain. And I love that we are seeing this move into the canine world. Is it common in Canada or is it still relatively rare? Or, you know,
Um, It's, I mean, so I've been running my business now for just over 7 years. And I would say this past year is kind of the first time where things really feel like they're really picking up. It is very niche. I will say, when people ask me what I do for work, they usually kind of laugh at me. And I'm like, I know it sounds funny, but it actually is, you know, there's science and stuff behind this.
right.
Yeah, so I think it's getting on the up and up, but it's still very, very niche.
Okay. It is here too, especially where I am. I'm in Kentucky, and we do have one clinic that just opened a rehab and therapy session or uh, wing, but it's not a particularly common thing.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's good to know that it's kind of everyone is learning or getting used to this.
Hmm.
Uh, so how did you actually get into it originally? What was your impetus for entering the field?
Yeah, so it's my business has evolved a lot. So I had the idea for a really long time before I started. I personally was really into fitness, and the gym was a big part of my day. But I would feel guilty a lot that I'd come home from work and then, you know, want to go to the gym for myself, but my dog just spent the whole day by herself, and just feeling really guilty. Like, you know, I'm like, well, do I take the dog for a walk or do I go to the gym? Because a walk just doesn't feel like enough for myself, but it doesn't really feel fair to leave my dog again. And I just wish that there was a way that she could work out with me. So that was how it started, was as a workout program with your dog. And as I got into that, I started to learn more about the canine specific fitness, and just kind of diving into that more and realizing that a lot of our dogs, have discomfort that we're not realizing. And that's a really big thing for me, is to help our dog's quality of life. So that's kind of how it started, was the workout with your dog, and then dog yoga, and then the canine fitness. And then I realized, like, these dogs have some tight muscles that we're just not getting out with stretching. So then I added in the massage, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Yeah. I totally understand, because when I have worked a full day and come home, the last thing I want to do is shove them back in their crates and, but it is really challenging. I have the extra challenging challenge of having multiple dogs, so I always have to figure out how many I can get exercised, or what that's going to look like. So it's definitely a concern for a lot of pet parents. Um, so what do most people get wrong about canine fitness?
I think there's a few things. I think maybe, when just hearing about it, just kind of thinking like maybe it's kind of silly. Or I know before I used to think about trick training, like, my dog doesn't need to impress me. Like, we don't need to do that stuff. But it's just so much more than that. I mean, there's the benefits for their physical health, but there's also the benefits for your bond building and learning how to communicate with each other and just spending that time together. I think another one would probably be when people, see canine fitness and think that's really fun, and they kind of just start like throwing a bunch of stuff at their dog. We have to be very cautious in the way we implement canine fitness, because there is a risk if we're asking our dogs to do things that they're not, their body or their mind isn't prepared for. There is the risk that we could accidentally hurt them. So I think the biggest thing is, yes, doing canine fitness is obviously like incredible, and I'm super passionate about it, but DIYing it when you don't have the training and what it's supposed to look like can end up causing more harm than good.
That's a good warning or concern to bring up. I'm glad you mentioned that. Um, so set the stage for us a little bit. What kind of equipment do you have, and what simple things could someone have to start slowly adding little bits of fitness to their dog's routine?
Yeah, so kind of building on that last point, when I first started, the primary pieces of equipment out there were a bunch of different inflatables. And so I felt the need to purchase every inflatable equipment out there. And as I've become more experienced, I've honestly gotten rid of a lot of those props. Just like with human fitness, we really want to solidify good movement mechanics. That's like the number one, is making sure that our posture and our movement is good before we start playing around on all sorts of unstable pieces of equipment. I would say that I guess one of the biggest errors I see is just trying to get our dogs to do these super advanced exercises on these huge peanut balls, and the dogs just don't have the strength to do that properly, so they end up creating more compensations there. So now, my favorite pieces of equipment are really basic. I really will just start off with some feet targets and a platform. And I like these because they really help us to teach our dogs exactly what we want from them, and help to set them up for good alignment. So I primarily, I'll start with the feet target. So I'll use a target for both front feet, a target for both rear feet. And then I also like using a platform. And the reason I like using the platform is when the dogs go on the platform, the boundaries of the platform help to set them up in good alignment. So we'll see a lot of dogs who have sloppy sits. I'm sure we've all seen stuff like that, where their legs are really abducted and rotated out. And if we have them on a more narrow platform, we can encourage their body to tuck in tight into alignment. So yeah, my favorite pieces of equipment are just really basic feet targets and a platform. And I have some blog posts on how to DIY those. It can be really easy. I mean, really, you can just cut up little pieces of foam or pieces of wood to use for that. And the exercises are honestly endless, and we can progress them from the basics to the harder stuff.
I love that you're pointing out that, the inflatables, there are some people whose dogs can do that, and it looks like it's not that hard, but it actually is a lot harder for the dog to accomplish those tricks than people probably realize. My dogs do some of this, but I am pretty cautious. I do stack everyone every day, so I have a foot target already, and I have different types of foot targets. And then I really just use a box, which is kind of your platform.
Hmm.
And sometimes there's a cushion on the box, and sometimes there's not. And sometimes I use the edge of my treadmill as a raised area. So
Yeah.
it's already down there and free, and you know, so I think that your advice to just simplify and start small is really good. And your website has tons of information. I think it's really interesting. I would actually recommend that people make sure they visit the before and after page, because I think that that is really insightful and helps you see things that you would not necessarily recognize as being issues, right?
Yeah, yeah. The before and afters, honestly, they amaze me every time I see
Oh
a
my God.
dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right before we start working together and then after, like it blows my mind, and it almost makes me realize how important fitness is for us too, just because you can see these before and afters and see the way that we're able to change the dog's joint alignment and just make them look so much more comfortable. It's pretty incredible. You can see
Yeah.
going through those photos that those dogs look so much more comfortable now that
Yeah.
their posture's improved.
Yeah. This is, it's kind of like having physical therapy, or a human having physical therapy for their whole life, but for the dog. So if you train your dog regularly, you can keep their joints healthy. And it really is so simple. I am really obsessed with it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So how long does it take for a dog to gain strength?
I mean, it's a bit relative. A lot of the times when we're first starting, we're really just building up the dog's skills before we're really focusing on the strength training. So, figuring out how to put their front feet on a prop, how to put their rear feet on a prop, and just kind of building up the skills. But I will say that I start to notice improvements in alignment within a few weeks. So, usually by about the 1 month mark, we're seeing some noticeable improvements in how the dog is carrying themselves and their joint alignment.
I think that's a good reminder for people that this is not an overnight fix. It is just like going to the physical therapist one or two times a week when you have an injury. You don't immediately feel better, but the payoff comes in a month or two or whenever. So you have to be patient with it. Um, so for dogs, of course, we want them to be strong, but we also want them to walk and have good cardiovascular health. How do you balance those two things? Is one more important for a dog? How do you think about those two issues?
I would say it probably depends on the individual dog. Just like with people, I mean, to have, optimal fitness and quality of life, we want to do like a variety of fitness. We want to do strength, flexibility, cardio, core stability, just to help make us more well rounded. I mean, athletes essentially, but even just, humans or dogs that can go about their day to day. So it kind of depends on the individual dog. I mean, if I'm looking at a dog and their primary concern is that they're overweight, before I mean, depending, I guess, on what their posture looks like, we can work on very low impact exercises. But long walks they're a good way to expend more calories, and they're gentle on the body. Um, I also think of walking as more of an enrichment exercise than anything else,
Yeah.
as I feel like sniffing is just so important for dogs.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not saying like never walk your dog. I think walks are very important. This is just something else that we can add on for our dogs, that has benefits that kind of walking can't provide. So of course, muscular strength is going to help to like not only build up the strength in the muscles, but the bones and the tendons and the ligaments. Strength training can also help to prevent some like slip and fall type injuries. For example, if a dog's leg was to slip out on a walk, if they don't have enough strength, the leg is just going to continue slipping out. But if their muscles, on either side of the shoulders have been strengthened, then they're more likely to be able to catch themselves and use their muscles to prevent the limb from slipping out further. So that's kind of one way that the muscular strength can help to reduce the risk of injuries. I'd say a really big one is most dogs are lacking in core stability, most people too. And that's a really big one. We really want to have strong spinal stabilizers to help support our spine and prevent unwanted movement throughout our discs. So it's really important for spinal health and just our joint health in general to have stable joints and working on stability training. Something we don't really think about very often is that our dogs get tight muscles too. So, flexibility exercises are going to be beneficial for them. With some dogs, if it's just kind of a general dog, they've done a general workout, then we'll work on flexibility exercises to stretch the muscles they just worked. But a lot of my custom program clients, I see a lot of muscular imbalances where the muscles on one side of a joint are very tight and the muscles on the other side are very weak. And so, what I would actually want to do is strengthen the weak muscles and work on mobility of the tight muscles to then help bring the joints into better alignment. Um, yeah, and then also just kind of working on body awareness skills can be really helpful as well, both for when we're out walking or they're doing anything throughout their day to day. Just having some awareness of their body, which sounds silly, but I'm sure we've all seen those dogs that don't seem to know they have a back end and that they're the ones in charge of it. So, yeah, just kind of teaching them the skills that you can move your body, and yeah, just kind of having that proprioceptive feedback of where all their legs are to kind of help keep them moving good and reduce the risk of them hurting themselves.
So core would be the area that most, speaking very generally, that most dogs are weakest in.
It's really hard to make blanket terms because it kind of depends, like different breeds of dogs are
Right.
gonna have
Yeah.
different issues depending on what the dog's lifestyle is like. I mean, some dogs are actually really, really tight in their trunk. And so instead of core stability may need something else. But I would say the number one is probably a need for core stability for most
Okay.
dogs.
Interesting. I think within the horse industry, that also is kind of a new thing. Like we never used to talk about core strength for horses,
Hmm.
although we talked about fitness and different um, strengthening things. And it's kind of interesting to see the two animals in parallel in that way.
Yeah, I mean, our trunk is what transfers forces when we're running
Right.
and stuff. Like we
Yeah.
use our trunk so much for everything, so it is really important that we're using it properly, so that it can be nice and stable and can give us the solid base that we need for our activities.
Yeah. Um, so let's switch a little bit to talking about how you actually deliver content. Do you mostly teach online or in person, or is it a mix? How has that evolved for you?
It's a mix. So I started my business in 2017 and it started in person in Edmonton, Alberta. And then when COVID hit is when I had to go online. And that was such a huge learning curve for me.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not an influencer. Like, I really don't, know what I'm doing in that space. But because it is so niche, it was able to open my business up to people that I would have never been able to connect with otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, so now my business primarily operates online. I'm going to say about 80% of my work is online, but I do still offer in person services for people local to me. And that primarily is mobile. So I go to them rather than working out of a facility of my own.
And for the dogs that you work for locally, are they dogs with injuries, or are they just, would you send them to a veterinarian specifically if it's post injury, or are you also able to handle those kinds of cases?
Yeah, so I work with a combination of healthy dogs and dogs with concerns. Dogs who have concerns, what's really important to me is that we get to the bottom of the concern. So I've developed a bit of an eye for catching on to, like, oh, like, we have some reduced hip flexion on that left side. Like, I think we should go get that checked out. So if I am concerned that there's an injury that we haven't yet diagnosed, that's where I'll send my clients out to. Talk to your veterinarian. Sometimes I'll make recommendations to get a referral out to a specialist and get diagnostics done and that sort of thing. So we know what we're working with, because exercises that can be beneficial for one thing may be contraindicated for another. So if we do suspect that there's some sort of injury, we want to know what we're dealing with. And I do work with dogs who have injuries, but only under the care of their veterinarian. So I'm not qualified to treat injuries myself, but I can be part of a healthcare team for a dog.
I see.
Mhm.
Um, what is your favorite course or part of teaching? Like, what do you really get excited about doing?
Um, Out of all of my courses, I would say just like the canine conditioning specific one is my favorite, or my Fine 4 Feet program. I have a paw targeting course that I offer that's really fun. One of the reasons I like it so much is we kind of wait for the dog to offer behaviors and then mark what we're looking for. And it's just a really great way to build up their body awareness, and the dogs have a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, I would say those are probably my favorite. And I also love getting to hang out with my client dogs in person. It's nice to have little doggy friends.
Oh, that's nice. So
Yeah.
you get to see them as a group if you don't have you don't have a class anywhere, right?
No, I'm not operating out of a facility right now, but I've had some regular clients since I started my business. So in the spring, summer, fall months here, I offer walking classes where we go out together and
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah, kind of find rocks, logs, benches, whatever to
Yeah.
exercise on. So that's really fun. And then just kind of some regular, massage clients that I get to see on a regular basis and stuff as well.
I actually love the idea of getting outside and doing some of the things because that way you're satisfying, sort of a walk, but also the sniffing because they're getting all of that enrichment and then doing these little tasks while you're out. So I love that idea.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's a great
Yeah.
confidence builder to, ask them to put their front feet up on a
Yeah.
slide or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun for the dogs.
Yeah. Also good for humans to get outside and clear their heads too. We forget
Yeah.
sometimes that we need it as much as the dogs do, even if it's not because of our sniffers.
Yeah, it's a great, I think, mental break for the
Yes.
people. Get to hang out with people who also love dogs, and just seeing your dogs, I think, be happy and get to be themselves is really rewarding for us.
Yeah. Do you have any clients that were particularly rewarding to work with that you'd like to talk about?
I've had like quite a few clients that have been very rewarding to work with. It's kind of hard to, I guess, pick out any, but I will say my favorite clients are the ones who really just want to do right by their dog,
Yeah.
and they're here because they just want to, yeah, make their dog as comfortable as possible, and they're willing to. I mean, of course, finances are always a limiting factor for everybody, but
Sure.
I really respect the people who, I'm like, this is a red flag to me. Like, I would go get this checked out, and when they take that seriously and go get that checked out, and just the clients who are willing to like put in the homework for their dog, because I can write a perfect fitness program, but if the owner isn't doing it with their dog, then it doesn't really mean that much, right? So I think just those
Right.
who are really dedicated to their dog's care.
Yeah. I'm sure every one of the dogs that has a before and after has a great story. I mean, the transformations that you show are really impressive,
Thank
and really
you.
interesting to look at. Um, so so you mentioned writing things down for the owners and sending them home with homework. Is
Mhm.
it is there a rough idea of how long they would work every day, or a couple of times a week for short periods? How do you kind of set
Yeah.
that up?
Yeah, so it depends on the dog, but for the most part, a general rule of thumb would be that my programs take about 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to say about 20 minutes a session, and I usually recommend every other day or so. So about 3 to 4
Okay.
times per week. But even, twice a week is fantastic, just kind of whatever they can get done. Yeah, and then with my own dogs, what I do more is they do their fitness training for their meals. So my little guy eats 3 times a day. So we'll do more like, 5-minute sessions 3 times a day instead.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah. And so when I make a fitness program, I will analyze the way the dog's structure and their posture and the way they're moving, and then create exercises to help improve what I think needs to be improved. And then it's sent over with the recommended sets and reps and video tutorials of each exercise. And I offer for clients to video their training and then send to me for review as well. Usually the review is more feedback for the person than the dog, but yeah.
And do people typically train with a treat or a clicker?
So with fitness training, instead of using a clicker, I use a marker word because I like to have both of my hands for the fitness training.
Okay.
But we do use rewards in fitness training. I find food rewards to be easier than like a play reward or something like that, just to help keep the arousal levels more appropriate.
Hmm.
But yeah, we do like I do use rewards for everything just to help clear the lines of communications with our dogs and
Right.
to keep it nice and fun for them.
Right. Right. Um, I know you have been reluctant to generalize, but what type of dog, not necessarily a specific breed, but what type of dog really picks this up very quickly and loves it?
Uh, food motivated dogs. um, I don't know. You kind of get a little bit of everything. Like I have yet to meet a dog that doesn't have fun with this, especially if we're patient with them. And I really like to optimize error-free learning. So if I'm doing something with a dog and they're not quite getting it, that's not on the dog. That's on me. I got to make it a little bit easier for them, or figure out how I'm going to change my communication. But I've had smart dogs and maybe less smart dogs. Like
And they all
lazy,
figure it out, right? I
yeah,
love that.
lazy dogs, athletic dogs. Yeah, I don't know, that it's just the ones that really speak out to me are the ones that just have, I don't know, you could just tell they're having the time of their life, and that just warms my heart a lot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, do you have anything planned for the upcoming, year or so? Any big changes to the courses that you're offering, or will you just continue kind of in this great path that you have for right now?
Oh, that's so sweet. Right now, I'm currently working on redoing my website. So I've had all of these self-paced courses people could do with my video tutorials just in that course. And going through each course every time I update a video has gotten a little tedious. So I just made a full video library. I have about 150 videos on there, and I'm just working on plugging all my courses so they fit into the video library. So, yeah, I'm just trying to optimize that as much as I can, working on little booklets of each of the exercises and just kind of working with the content I currently have and just trying to make it better for my clients.
Oh, awesome. And I totally can commiserate because with websites, you're just constantly, you think you're finished, and then a year passes, and then you're like, oh, wow, this is all dated, or this could be improved. And, it's not necessarily the training, it's sometimes the running the business behind the scenes that you have to attend to.
Totally, it's never ending. And yeah,
Yeah.
and then just sometimes with my videos too, like I'll rewatch a video that say I filmed like 4 years ago, and I'm like, oh, I could probably be more clear on this, or
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
So with the proliferation of new social media, are you branching out to any of those, or are you sticking kind of with Facebook and Instagram? That's probably what you are
Yeah.
on and what most people
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram because I understand them. I, there's I would love to maybe get on YouTube and stuff, but I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Um,
It's on the horizon, but yeah, right now I'm just really trying to make my website as like improve that as much as I can before kind of branching out into other social
right.
media. I guess,
It was
yeah.
overwhelming. I have accounts and sometimes I'm like, okay, what what do I want from this account? What should I be doing here? You know,
Yeah, like well, everything takes so
too
much
many
time to
accounts.
learn,
Oh
right? Like
gosh. Yeah.
I know dogs and I know fitness. I don't know social media. I don't know like so
Yeah.
it's just like yeah.
I actually just added the podcast to YouTube and I was only able to do it because I connected the RSS feed. So YouTube read the RSS feed and uploaded stuff. And miraculously, the next day, all of the episodes were on YouTube.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
yeah, it was wonderful. But if I had been making individual videos somewhere else, they would have to manually be uploaded, which would be an undertaking.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So if people are interested, where should they go to find you? Let's.
So
I,
my business again is Sit Stay Squat. So it's sit SIT stay STAY squat SQUAT. So my website is sitstaysquat.ca for Canada. And then I'm on Facebook, Sit Stay Squat, and Instagram, Sit Stay Squat.
awesome. And it looks like you offer a regular discount for new users. Am I right? That you had. I feel like I saw something that said take a percentage off, so people
Yeah,
could take advantage of that.
I've been running some promos. So right now, for the month of February, I'm running like 30% off the online courses using the promo code I love my dog.
Oh, nice.
And then I was thinking today actually that I think next week I'm going to send out a promo code for custom programs. So my plan is to do a little sale on those in February as well.
Oh, fantastic. So if people are following you, they can just pay attention to the promo code that's current and use that if they haven't already booked a course.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I am so glad that you had time this afternoon to talk to me. This is a topic that I'm totally interested in, and I love hearing the different practitioners around basically the world who are really understanding how important canine fitness is for animal comfort. So I'm really grateful that you had time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, and remember, a poodle will change your life. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the podcast. Just a few details. If you have any feedback or questions, you can email poodlepeoplepodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave feedback on Spotify or Apple, and we will read those messages. You can message me on Instagram either under the Poodle People podcast handle or my personal handle, Strong Contestant No O. And feel free to visit my website, scotchcornerstandardpoodles.com. You can see pictures of my dogs, my breeding program, my current litter, and you can find the link to my application on gooddog.com if you are interested in a puppy. Thanks so much for listening. Before we go, I wanted to remind you that we have 2 listener discounts. Leading Edge Dog Show Academy is offering 40% off site-wide using the code all caps PoodlePod40. Again, it's Leading Edge Dog Show Academy. Any of the courses, even the Winner Circle, 40% off. Use the code in all caps PoodlePod40. And our friends at Hidden Hills Greater Swiss Mountain Dogs have offered 25% off the raw feeding guide for beginners. Use Poodle25. Again, from our friends at Hidden Hills Greater Swiss Mountain Dogs, it's 25% off the code with the code Poodle25 for the raw feeding guide for beginners. Those are two awesome discounts. We also have a new page where people can express interest in advertising on the podcast to reach our great and motivated audience. So if you know anybody who has a small business or something they need to promote, they can go to scotchcornerstandardpoodles.com/advertise, or they can reach out to me directly.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Poodle People. See you next week.